Hello, everybody. I am just getting everything all set up so that you can see what I'm going to be doing today. You all know that I'm going to be riding in the Closer to Free ride tomorrow. I want to make sure that you can see everything. All right, so today what I'm going to be showing, yes, I have some of my vegetables there too. My sister brought some peppers for my mom, and we've got some cucumbers. Yay! Actually, cucumbers would be very good to have in your water after your long distance ride because A, they are very good. Well, they're great for hydration. They have a little bit of magnesium in them too. So here we go. All right. Okay, we're on. Alrighty, so hello everybody. How's it going? Happy Friday. So I thought that I'd come to you in my element. I trained this morning. I'm a little fashionably, I shouldn't say fashionably late, but I'm a little late. Had some family over. As I said, my sister dropped off some of her delicious produce that she has been growing in her backyard. And she made some pesto for us too. I absolutely love pesto. Oh, for those of you, okay, on Facebook, you can't see my head. Okay, sorry. All right, so as I was saying, most of you know that I'm going to be doing the Closer to Free ride tomorrow. More than likely, I am going to be doing the 100-mile bike ride. If I'm not, I'm going to be doing 65-mile bike ride, but that's still going to be a pretty long distance, and I need to be able to optimize my fuel and hydration in order to go the distance. Not only for me to perform well, but also to recover properly too, because if you're not really effective in that, then that can really hinder your recovery and keep you back. Well, yeah, push you back. And I don't want that because I am going to be 3 weeks out from my half Ironman New York, or Ironman 70.3 New York, which I'm so excited about. And I want to make sure that I am fueling effectively for that as well as recovering. So with that in mind, today I am going to speak about effective fueling strategies and how to use whole foods for the distance. Whole foods, and also I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite gels and some of my favorite products that I'm going to be using for hydration and for whole food nutrition. So with that in mind, hello, my name is Drew Mulvey. I am a certified dietitian nutritionist, board certified nutrition specialist, and certified integrative sports nutritionist. I specialize in performance nutrition for athletes and autoimmune condition and disordered eating for those that are athletes and non-athletes. I really help to empower you to make the correct fueling choices so that you are going past your limitations. You're surpassing your limitations. You're developing an amazing relationship with food, and you're really starting to reach your athletic potential and also life potential too. That can really be hindering you when you have an autoimmune condition or when you have that chronic disease. Really, my program really helps to set you free so that you're living the best life possible and you regain your vitality that you once had back. That could be in your sport or that could be in life. And if that does sound like you, I'd really love to sit down with you. You know my story from a fibromyalgia relapse in January, February to now. I am training for an Ironman 70.3. There are a lot of tools that I have in my toolbox. If that sounds like you and you really want to get your vitality back, you want to improve your relationship with food, you want to really feel empowered to actually be more in control of your health, then let's talk. If I got control of my health and I've seen it in my clients, I can help you too. All right, so today, effective fueling strategies. So when it comes to the longer distances, the nutrition is going to change a little bit. Now, what exactly does that mean in terms of particular macronutrients? So we all know, I shouldn't say we all know. Let's start at the beginning. So before you actually have the event, they recommend between 1.0 to 4.0 grams per kilogram of carbohydrates that you're having in that particular meal. It's going to be low in proteins and low in fats. So for me, I'm about 49 kilograms. So for me, if I go one, that would be about 49 kilograms. Up to four, that would be almost 200 kilograms. Oh my gosh, that would be almost 200 grams. That would be a lot of carbohydrates, 200 grams of carbohydrates that I would be ingesting. Now, why do you do that? Because it helps to top up the glycogen so that you can optimize your performance at the beginning so that your body is pulling from that. Now, right now, I'm also carb loading. So in studies, They usually recommend about 70% of your or 70% of your overall calories are going to be from carbohydrates about 2 to 3 days beforehand. Most of the studies have been 48 hours. I did 3 days before my Olympic triathlon. This time I'm doing 48 hours. So it's either 70% of your intake, your total daily intake, or they recommend between 8 and 12 grams per kilogram. Particularly in some of the research papers that I have seen, it's about 9 grams per kilogram that's been effective for topping off that glycogen and carb loading. That really helps to optimize your performance. It prevents that bonk, and it really helps you to just really blow past the barriers and prevent that burnout that you get in the middle of your event. I experienced that with my Olympic triathlon, and I am going to be experiencing that tomorrow, and also in 3 weeks with my half Ironman. So with that in mind, I'm probably going to be consuming about probably 2 to 3 grams per kilogram of carbohydrates in the morning. I'm going to be showing some of the things that I've been doing for carb loading. I should also say that I am also on a modified paleo AIP, so that can be a little bit more difficult when it comes to proper fueling, especially when it comes to carbohydrates. So with that paleo AIP, you can't have any gluten, no dairy, beans, grains, no soy, no nightshades. There's like a couple of other things. I'm not following it like strictly. I know what things I have issues with and that I don't have issues with. But the problem with that is when it comes to those rest stations, what am I going to be able to have? And a lot of the things that work with my body are whole foods, and I have been able to find some products that work with my body, which I'm going to be discussing. All right, so we have covered the pre-workout nutrition. Normally what I do right before I get on the bike, even though it's going to be between 2 grams and 3 grams per kilogram of carbohydrates that I am going to have, so a little bit of protein in there and a little bit of fat just to carry me over. It is good to have at least about like 30 grams of carbohydrates. Very, very simple carbohydrates. I should emphasize that. These carbohydrates should be very simple. I normally have a juice, so I have some carrot juice in there that I'm probably going to have, or I have some tart cherry juice. That's just to top it off, or if you have a whole food gel that you really like, you can incorporate that just to get you going for that. That should top you off for about an hour. Now, when it comes to actual nutrition, when it's events lasting over 4 to 5 hours, it's going to look a little bit different than, say, you have an event that is 3 hours. So what exactly is going to change? Well, a lot of those studies, should I say, they recommend between 30 grams and 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour in the first 3 hours. So say you're doing a half marathon and you've already topped off with about 90 grams of carbohydrates at the beginning, and then you've made it all the way to 90, then you start taking in gels that are about 30 grams of carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, or some sort of whole food that's 30 grams of carbohydrates. But once you get past the 2.5 to 3 hours, that's when it's going to start to increase to about 60 grams to 90 grams. Now, here's the thing. If it goes even longer than that, the nutrition at the beginning is actually going to be a little bit different. You're not just going to be taking in those simple carbohydrates. You want to have a little bit more sustained fuel. So it'll be important to actually have a little bit of protein and a little bit of fat in there. So it's still recommended that you have that 30 grams of carbohydrates. Well, 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. For me, I'm just going to have them at different feedings, which I will discuss my method of that. But you want to have the 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates, but you also want to pair it with about 5 to 10 grams of protein and maybe like 5 to 10 grams of fats too. And why is that? Because it really helps to sustain that energy. You're not getting all of those sugar spikes right away. And it's going to help you to stabilize your blood sugar along the way too. So what I'm going to be personally doing, I have some products that I really like. I'm able to have brown rice protein powder, not so much brown rice, but brown rice protein powder. So some of the bars that I really like that I'm going to be incorporating, we have these lovely Lara bars here. All these are made of is pretty much dates and nuts, and then there's some There's some chocolate chips in here because, well, first of all, chocolate chips, they have, I should say chocolate, has nitric oxide in it, and that actually helps to dilate your blood vessels a bit. So that helps the blood to flow a little bit more and also the oxygen to be delivered to your muscles much more effectively. So that can really help when you are on a very long distance ride or a run. That's what they usually recommend beetroot powder for. Now, for the ladies, it's going to be dependent on your cycle whether you take it at the beginning or you take it at the end. Because during the follicular phase, the second phase of the follicular phase, and the first phase of the luteal phase, your body's actually going to need a little bit more. Okay, your body's going to need a little bit more of sodium to kind of like preload a little bit. That's also, I didn't cover that about preloading with sodium. You want to make sure that with the carbohydrates, you're incorporating a little bit more of the, I shouldn't say just plain sodium. So I usually use pink Himalayan sea salt, and that just helps you to retain water so that you're staying hydrated properly. All right, so then we're going into that. That's going to be for the first 3 to 4 hours. I'm going to be doing a 100-mile bike ride tomorrow, and that's going to range between 8 and 10 hours. So after that amount of time, your body is not thinking about digesting, and that's when you're going to want to transfer. So let's go back to some of my favorite products. I'm going to be using these Lara bars. Well, this might not be for the first 3 hours. It's going to be either the Lara bar, or I love these Go Macro bars too. The Go Macro bars have about 36 grams of carbohydrates in them. Protein is about 11 grams and total fat is about 10 grams. So there you go. You got your protein and you got your fat as well. Now, I'm not having a Lara bar. This has 36 grams of carbohydrates. What I'm going to be doing is I have, after that hour, I always have that 60 grams of carbohydrates. So after an hour and after the 2 hours, I'm going to be having that 60 grams of carbohydrates. So my plan is to start off with a Go Macro bar after 60 minutes on the bike. And then I'm going to be pairing it with some simpler carbohydrates. So some of the best things that you can actually carry with you, oh gosh, I forgot something that I'm going to have. It's not necessarily whole food, but it's one of the better things. You want to have something that's simple. So I have raisins, and raisins can actually be just as beneficial as the Jelly Bellies, the Performance Jelly Bellies. Very simple in carbohydrates, plus you're also getting some potassium in there as well. I love dates. I have been training with dates this whole summer, and I feel like a Wonder Woman when I have dates. So with that, there's also bananas that I'm going to be carrying too. Bananas obviously are going to be a little bit higher in sugar, and it has a little bit of potassium in there too, so to prevent that muscle cramping. But here's the way that you're going to be using whole foods. So banana, I plan on using either a Go Macro bar and a banana, a Go Macro bar, or if it's little dates, about 5 of these are going to be 30 grams of carbohydrates, and about a quarter of a cup of the seedless raisins are going to give you about 30 grams of carbohydrates. So that's what I'm doing. Go Macro bar has the protein, it has the fat, it also has some carbohydrates to top me off for about a half an hour. Then after that next half an hour, after that for initial 60 minutes to cover my bases with the 60 grams of carbohydrates, I'm going to be having either some raisins, some dates, or some banana. Now, probably at hour 2 or hour 3, I'm going to start incorporating these Lara bars. So I'm probably going to have 2 of the Lara bars. I shouldn't say 2 at the same time, but same idea. 1 Lara bar on top of the 30 grams of carbohydrates. Now, once it gets past the 3 hours, at 3 hours, I'm still planning on having either a Lara bar or a Go Macro bar. But now it's going to be upping the carbohydrates a little bit more. So that would be at the initial 60, I would say the initial 4 hours, that's what it would be at. And then what I'm planning on doing, having a banana about 20 minutes later, and then having some dates about 20 minutes later. So it's going to be 5 dates, or if it's large dates, then it's about 2 dates. The banana, they're about 30 grams each. And I plan on doing that at least for that next hour. Once it gets over hour 5, I am going to start transitioning to just carbohydrate sources, because at that point my body's not thinking about digesting. I've had that sustainable energy. I just need to be go, go, go. Your body is literally just crying out for carbohydrates. Plus your adrenals are just kind of, I don't want to say they're tanking, but they're firing a lot. So that's why you just need those simple carbohydrates in there, and that's really going to help with to optimize your performance. So increasing it to about 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour. One of these strategies that I'm going to have, you're going to have about 30 grams of carbohydrates every 20 minutes. So that would be a banana, that would be 5 dates, and then that would be a quarter of a cup of raisins that I'm going to be doing. I also have some other products. So unfortunately, I only have one Morton gel, but the Morton gel I am going to be having when I am doing my half Ironman. So when I get to the running portion, I should probably be at 4 hours. So I had already started to intake the 90 grams of carbohydrates. I'm planning, they have Morton gels there. So the Morton gels, this is about 25 grams of carbohydrates. You need about 3 to 4 of these just to get up to the 90 grams of carbohydrates. So I'm planning on stopping and getting a ton of these and having about 3 or 4 of these per hour if you do not have carbohydrates in your drink. There are some carbohydrate drinks, or I should say some hydration drinks with the sodium in it that have the 30 grams of carbohydrates. So that's going to cover all of your bases. And actually there is a product that I'm going to be talking about, which I'm going to start incorporating at the end, as I need to try and practice what I'm going to be doing for the half Ironman this particular weekend. So I do plan on incorporating some of the Morton gel that I've been practicing with and I've been training with. This does not cause gastrointestinal upset in me, and it's been absolutely amazing. And that's another thing too, is making sure when you have those simpler carbohydrates that it doesn't cause all that gastrointestinal upset that if you were to have that protein in that carbohydrate, it could potentially lead to. All right, so that's kind of some of the strategies, incorporating some bananas, incorporating some dates, and then incorporating some raisins. But I believe towards the end of that, I'm really just going to need some liquid nutrition. So one of the products that I am going to be introducing this particular time, and I'm going to be introducing it into my half Ironman as well. Thank you to one of my clients who actually showed me this. It is from Scratch Nutrition, and it is the high carb mix. There's berry and then there's lemon lime. There's about 100 grams of carbohydrates and about 400 milligrams of sodium. I'll go into that in a second with the hydration because you want to make sure that you are hydrating properly. So that's going to cover my bases for at least the last hour or two because I'm really going to be pushing my body, and it is really emphasized that I'm getting to that 90 grams of carbohydrates. But also for the ladies, why is this going to be super important? Okay, so I want to just talk a little bit about the different phases and what's going to be happening. In your follicular phase, the second week of your follicular phase, you're actually able to pull from fat a little bit more effectively, so you can get away with not necessarily having all the carbs at the beginning. So you could actually get away with having 30 grams of carbohydrates and then waiting 60 minutes and then start fueling after that, just because the body is a little bit more forgiving. And it also, it oxidizes carbohydrates a heck of a lot easier too. And it uses them for fuel and uses glycogen for fuel. Now, when you get into the luteal phase, there's an issue with that you're not going to be as effective from pulling from those carbohydrates and pulling from glycogen. Now, you can store glycogen, so your muscle energy, you can store that much more effectively, but it is a lot harder for your body to actually pull from that, as it's relying more on fat oxidation. So what you have to do is, this is really important for autoimmune conditions as well, and this helps you to prevent you from not recovering properly from a long event as this, if you've had a chronic disease. And even those that are getting back into training and getting back into their routine, I recommend having gram per gram, minute per minute. So at the beginning, you want to have 60 grams of carbohydrates, and then at the end of those 60 minutes, you start with the 60 grams. After the 3 hours, immediately start with those 90 grams of carbohydrates. Your body just really, really needs it at that point. And especially in your luteal phase too, your body is actually in a little bit more of a heightened state of stress. So it's important that you're meeting it gram for gram, minute per minute. So that's actually going to be about it would be 1.5 grams after the first 3 hours, right? 1.5 grams per minute. Yeah. So again, you want to make sure that you're meeting that and having the simple sugars so that you're not going to have that gastrointestinal upset. Now, when it comes to recovery, it's usually recommended that you need some protein to be able to prevent that muscle breakdown. That's another thing. At the beginning, when you do the first 3 hours, when you do have a little bit of that protein, it is preventing that muscle breakdown so effectively. So that's why you want to have it at the beginning. But then at the end, it's really important to have something that has protein in it that's going to help you to recover from that muscle breakdown, that muscle damage. So it's recommended about 0.3 grams per kilogram of protein, and then you want to couple it with a good source of simple carbohydrates. So at about 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. So it would be really important knowing when you're going up into an event, like how many kilograms that you do weigh, and then obviously optimizing your post-workout nutrition based on that in particular. So I know for me, as I said, I'm about 49 kilograms, maybe like 50 kilograms, and that's going to be roughly 50 to 60. I usually do around 60 with about 20 grams of protein in there afterwards, just for optimization. Now, when it comes to hydration, who tends to miss it a lot? I do. All right, when it comes to hydration, it's not just water that you want to be taking in, because if you think about it, you're sweating and you're sweating out sodium, but you're also going to need other electrolytes such as potassium and magnesium, but you don't want to overdo it. This has been the problem. Don't just bring coconut water. Why is that? Because it's very high in potassium, not very high in sodium, and you're already flushing out the sodium from your sweat. The potassium is going to override that, and that's going to make you more hyponatremic, and that's where you're going to start getting cramps. That's when you're going to start getting dizzy. That's when you're going to start getting fatigued. So it's really important that you're not just bringing coconut water, but if you do have coconut water, putting in some extra sea salt so that it's overriding that and you're actually replenishing and hydrating your body. All right, so what do you do in terms of hydration? Well, first of all, if I would recommend figuring out what your sweat rate is. So for your sweat rate, if for every kilogram that you lose, you need about 1,000 milligrams of sodium. And then for every kilogram that you lose, they say that you need about a liter of water, but I recommend a liter of water anyway, just to hydrate properly. For every hour, you should be going through that water bottle. And when you are having your carbohydrates, you should also be having the water as well, because that's going to help it to effectively get absorbed into your system and not cause that. Has anybody been dehydrated and gotten super bloated? Yeah, think about that on the bike. It's not fun. So you want to be able to pair your carbohydrates, taking 4 or 8 sips of water just to be able to hydrate properly. It's also recommended to take maybe 4 sips every 15 minutes of water so that you're at least getting that 24 ounces in. Now, when it comes to, you want to replete the sodium, right? Now, you could just start with having an electrolyte drink, and you already know the sodium that you need. But for me, I like to start out with water, and then afterwards, they recommend between 300 and 600 milligrams of sodium. If you're a saltier sweater, I kind of know what my sweat rate is. So if you don't know what your sweat rate is, kind of gauge it by how salty you are, and also gauge it by the temperature too. If it's going to be a hotter, more humid day, then you're going to need a little bit more electrolytes, and you're going to need a little bit more hydration. If it's a colder day, you're actually going to be needing a little bit more carbohydrate just to keep your body warm, because you're expending extra calories just for your body to stay warm. So with that in mind, it's about 300 milligrams to 600 milligrams. Some of my favorite products that I'm going to be incorporating. So there is the Now Sports Effort Hydrate that's actually on my dispensary. It is pretty much identical to Noon tablets. This has about 360 milligrams of sodium, has some potassium, 100 milligrams of potassium in there too, and it has a little bit of magnesium. If you see in a lot of those electrolyte powders and electrolyte drinks, they have a little bit of potassium and magnesium in them. That's going to help with that muscle cramping. So you want to balance everything out. There's also LMNT. I will not be bringing this tomorrow because this is mango habanero and I am staying away from nightshades. So as delicious as this sounds, this is usually what I use, about a half of a packet of this. It's about 500 milligrams. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on putting a tablet of this into my second water and then sipping on that throughout that second time, and it's pretty much going to be consistent. So between 300 and 600, I might even do a tablet and a half. Now, with that, I also talked about another product that I'm going to be incorporating. It's the Scratch High Carb Hydration. So it has 100 grams of carbohydrates, but it also has 400 milligrams of sodium. So at that time, at the very end, where my body just doesn't want to digest anything and it just really needs those simple carbohydrates and quick, I'm going to be using that towards the end for the last maybe hour, 2 hours. Because at that point, I'm just going to need fuel. My body's going to be very, very fatigued. So I'm going to need that extra carbohydrate. That's what I'm planning. I'm actually going to go get it today. I'm very excited about it. So here's the general outline, is that in the first 3 hours, this is what you want. You want to have 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates. So simpler carbohydrates. But in that time, up to 4 hours, you also want to have a little bit of protein and a little bit of fat. The protein is going to help to prevent muscle breakdown, so about 5 to 10 grams of protein, about 5 to 10 grams of fat that you're going to need in there. That's for sustained energy. And I was going to say the nuts have fat, but they also has protein. So okay, I'm going back. So you're going to need a little bit of that protein and that fat, and some of the bars that I really like. There's Go Macro bars. We have the Lara bars here. This doesn't have as much protein in it, but it has a little bit of that protein in it, and it does have the fat as well. Plus, it's got the dates. You also want to be coupling that, since those are only about 30 grams of carbohydrates. You want to be coupling that with also some simpler carbohydrates. So that could be some Morton gels. That could be Huma gels. That could be gels that you really particularly like. It could be raisins or bananas. They're going to be having bananas at the aid stations, except everybody takes the bananas and they've run out of bananas sometimes. So I'll be bringing a lot of bananas with me tomorrow. Okay, so what to do after that 4 hours? Then your body just is not going to be digesting protein and fat effectively, and you could potentially get stomach upset. So in that time, that's when you want to make the switch to the simpler carbohydrates. And after that 3 hours, you're going to be up to 90 grams of carbohydrates. So probably at that 3 to 4 hour mark right there, that's when you're going to increase it to 90 grams of carbohydrates, but you're still going to have some sort of like a protein and a fat and a carbohydrate, and then add in the extra sources of carbohydrate like what I was saying. I'm going to have probably some raisins and banana. I used to make a raisin banana puree, and that felt like jet fuel for me. It was the absolute best. And obviously during that time, you're going to be sipping on some electrolytes as well, between 300 and 600 milligrams of sodium. If you sweat more than that, then you're probably going to need a whole entire thing of LMNT. Oh, and with the recovery. Well, I'm getting into the recovery. All right, so then when it comes after that 4 hours, that's when you're going to want the simpler carbohydrates, and that's where I'm going to be using a drink that's going to be the carbohydrates plus the actual sodium, the electrolytes in there as well. Plus, I do much better when I have a little bit of water and I have those electrolytes, so I'll probably be sipping on a little bit of both during that time. Now, for after, what am I going to be doing? So I talked about the proper protein to carbohydrate ratio, but there's also some very important nutrients that I'm going to be incorporating. Now, they recommend about 6 grams of glutamine to have after your workouts to help with muscle reparation. It also helps with gut health. It helps to produce your body's natural antioxidant. This one has a little bit of curcumin in it, and there's some mixed studies about having antioxidants around your events and around your training, because it could blunt the effect of making new mitochondria, so basically your energy powerhouses. But incorporating some glutamine in there, that has been studied and has been researched, that's going to help me with recovery. But with antioxidants, I do have to say this, that in my case, when I have incorporated antioxidants, I have felt a heck of a lot better. And that is why this, if you can see it, it's from Blue Shift. I became an affiliate and carried this as part of my practice after I went to the Boston Marathon, and they were talking to me about this post-workout recovery drink. It's a little powder. It's got glutamine in it. It's got some, so I'm probably going to have the glutamine in this, but I just wanted to, for all intents and purposes, talk about the glutamine. So it has glutamine, has tart cherry powder, it has curcumin in it. It's got some really great things in it that when I started using it last year, I was recovering a heck of a lot better. So I'm going to make sure that I take one of these along with that. Either that I'm going to have that protein shake, and it's for me, it's usually protein shake, and then it's tart cherry juice. I normally have 2 cups of tart cherry juice, and then I have a scoop of protein powder. But we've got some food tickets, and so I'm probably going to be having a burger and potentially some French fries. I know that I've been taking away the nightshades, but I've been doing okay with French fries, so I just kind of need to. I'm doing something very individual. Plus, the French fries have some salt in them, and that's going to be replenishing. Oh, that's the other thing that I'm going to incorporate too, is LMNT actually has a seltzer. Yes, thank you, Nick Logan, for opening up my eyes to that. I used that after my Olympic triathlon. I felt like I recovered very, very well, and that's really topping you off as well. So that's pretty much going to be my post-workout routine. 0.3 grams per kilogram protein, 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of carbohydrate. Get in some extra hydration, so that would be about, it could be roughly 300 to 600 milligrams of sodium depending on how much you lost. I'm just going to have the seltzer, or I'm just going to throw in one of these other electrolytes as well. Plus, I'm going to be having the electrolytes, and I'm going to be having the carbohydrates in that scratch. So I think that I've pretty much covered anything. If anybody has any questions about anything that I just talked about, please feel free to direct message me. I would absolutely love to help you out. I mean, this is my specialty. If you've been bonking and you've been trying to figure out how to optimize your performance, and particularly if you're having any sort of gut issues, let's try and optimize that pre-training and get your body into proper functioning order. I will throw in a freebie. I'll throw in a freebie. Okay, so if you have gastrointestinal issues, it's because your body's overworked. The feed actually has an adaptogenic gel that you can take before your event that can help your body to adapt to that stressor. So having some of those, also turmeric, cinnamon, and ginger are very good adaptogens as well. Maca is an adaptogen. You just have to be wary of when you use that in your cycle for those of you that are females. And there's other adaptogens that you can incorporate. Plus, you want to make sure that your gut microbiome is balanced. So having some fermented foods in the time leading up. Today, actually, I have this, and I was going to sip on it. It's called Betterbooch. Betterbooch, it's kombucha. It's a fermented drink, and it also is giving me the simple carbohydrates that I'm having too. I've gone into detail about carbohydrate loading, some of my favorite things that I incorporate now that I'm mostly like paleo. I've been incorporating a lot of fruit. I have some Lara bars. I just had some cassava pasta with some broccoli and some vegetables in there. And then I'm having the Betterbooch. And I love that. The Betterbooch. I'm sorry. I think that has a little twang to it. Okay. Yeah, and the Betterbooch made me lose my train of thought. Okay, oh yeah, some of the things that I've been doing for carb loading. I can actually have corn. So what I did this morning, I just went on a very light little ride. They do recommend for sports. I did go to Perform Better Summit, and they recommended before events that you do like a little bit of sprint work, nothing crazy. So obviously the training volume is going to be lower, but the intensity is going to be a little bit higher. I just did a couple sprints this morning, and then just a nice, easy zone 1, zone 2 ride. I think my Garmin is lying to me about 16 hours of recovery. My Garmin and I need to have a conversation, actually. But incorporating a little bit of that so it wakes up the muscles, and then you're resting most of the day so that you're really, that's the idea of carb loading, is that you're topping the glycogen off so that your body's going to be able to use it and have enough fuel, jet fuel for the event the next day. But incorporating some things like that, that would be very beneficial as well. All right. Other carbohydrates that I'm incorporating, as I said, fruits, the cassava pasta. I had jelly, some Crofters organic jam with a corn tortilla, organic corn tortilla. I had that before my ride, along with I talked about this, my little matcha adrenal cocktail. So the matcha, it's got some caffeine in it, and it's got the electrolyte. So I put the sodium in there, and I have the potassium from the coconut water. So I put a little extra sodium in there, then a little bit of stevia, and I need to have a little bit of fat beforehand, or I feel like I get too much of a sugar rush. So that is a really great thing to have. For tomorrow, I'm debating if I want to have a sunflower butter and banana roll-up, a couple roll-ups, or if I want to use the Gorilla Munch that I got with the banana, and some sunflower butter as well. I'm very excited about that. So that's how I'm going to be topping everything off. And then I usually couple a juice with that. But yeah, if you have had any issues with bonking, if you've had any issues with those GI issues, try incorporating those two things. But I would really love to speak with you. Obviously, I have gone from relapsing with fibromyalgia to now training for a half Ironman. And what was the importance of that? Making sure that I'm recovering properly or fueling properly. I have to do gram per gram, minute per minute. You're not putting as much stress on your body like that. There are certain supplements that I have been incorporating that have been really helping me to get to the level where I'm at. And I'd like to say Juice Plus has also been my friend as well. I have the veggies, the fruits, and the berries. Now, it's very important that you have a general overall good antioxidant status, and that's what's really helping me with this paleo AIP approach, is that it's very high in antioxidants, very alkalizing. That's going to actually help the body to produce more energy and the mitochondria to produce more energy as well, so that I will have a much more effective and optimal performance tomorrow. I take those every day. And antioxidants, they're going to actually prevent you from fatiguing too early. If you don't have proper antioxidants, then there's little channels, there's calcium channels, and then there's sodium potassium pumps that work in your muscles to contract and retract. If you don't have the proper antioxidants, then you're going to fatigue a heck of a lot more, because your heart rate's going to go up to try and make your muscles move. Very important that does not happen, because we want to make sure that we are hitting our goals, right? All right, so if you feel like you've been really confused about this nutrition, if you really want to feel empowered and in control of your athletic performance and your health with the power of nutrition, with the power of integrative nutrition, particularly integrating all different components of health into your life, so that you're maintaining longevity in your sport, you have your vitality back, you have gained a new quality of life. You are not just getting to your athletic goals, but you are living your best quality of life. If I have done it and I've done it for my clients, I can definitely do it for you, and I would absolutely love to speak to you. Again, I specialize in working with individuals, athlete, non-athlete, that with autoimmune conditions and disordered eating and performance nutrition, for those that are athletes, to really help them and empower them to make the correct fueling choices that are unique for their own needs, and to reach their true athletic potential and regain their vitality back, so that they're at their healthiest, they're at their best, and they're not missing out on these opportunities and the goals that they've set for themselves and making them feel helpless. If I've done it and I'm in this freedom, then let's break the chains together. Please be sure to DM me, or for those of you that are on Facebook, it's going to be in the comments. For those of you that are on Instagram, it is going to be the link is going to be in my bio. Set it up. Let's go over your goals. Let's go over what your nutrition is. So it's going to be a free 30-minute strategy call. I'm going to kind of go over what you've been doing, make some recommendations, and then we can go from there to really get you set and living the best life. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. I am very excited about tomorrow. I'm going to be checking in. I'll be showing some of the things that I'm doing for carb loading, and obviously I'll be checking in while I'm at the stops at the Closer to Free ride, kind of giving everybody an update on what I am doing. So please be sure to tune in. I'll give you the rundown. I'll be sending you pictures as well of what I'm doing for my fueling. So there is going to be a blog post eventually for this, listing out the different gels that I really like to incorporate, the different whole foods that I really like to incorporate. I mean, you can even make your own electrolyte drink with juice and a little lime juice, like some cherry and water and a little lime juice and some sodium. Just mix it all up, and you've got some antioxidants in there too. So it is possible to make your own. You can even throw in a little bit of coconut water in there if you want to, and then a little coconut water, a little maple syrup, and a little bit of juice with the sodium. That turns out really good too. So there's ways that you can do it. But I'm just going to be too far along that there's only so much that I can carry with me because I don't have a little pack in the front. So I'm doing my best. I'm doing a little mix of both. But anyway, all right. So be sure to follow me. I'll be touching base over the course of the day. I'll be touching base over the course tomorrow. And I hope that you have really gained a lot of knowledge from this and a lot of understanding. Again, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to DM me. All right, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful Friday. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.